What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a great start to their weekend. We just completed the spring game for the 2021, I guess, off season. I'm here with Kev. If you're familiar with Twitter social media, he does an outstanding job with his Canes takes. And I'm going to be having a series of different fans come on this live stream to give their perspective of the spring game. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content. And Kev, introduce yourself to everyone listening.
Yeah, guys. So obviously, a lot of you guys know I used to be a part. Now I wasn't the host because I know you got a lot of backlash, but I used to be a part of the Canes cast back in the day. Still a very avid fan on Twitter, talking a lot of Canes stuff, talking a lot of Miami sports things. So yeah, I'm super excited. If you don't follow me, my Twitter handle is Smith31Kev. Super excited to talk about the spring game today.
So, Kev, man, what are your thoughts? I mean, personally, for me, it was the Jake Garcia show. I was very impressed with the true
Yeah.
freshman coming in, literally a semester on campus, putting on quite a performance. He did not play like a true freshman quarterback. It seemed like he was a part of the program, part of this offense for quite some time. What were your thoughts about Jake Garcia?
Not at all. I mean, I think Jake Garcia really showed out today. I would love to talk about Tyler Van Dyke as well because I do
Right.
feel like Jake Garcia is getting a lot of love just because he's the true freshman. He really showed out. He showed a lot of mature play today. Even there was a throw towards the end of the game where I don't know, I forgot which defensive end, but defensive end had his hands right in his face, and it was a wide receiver screen, a bubble screen, and he fit it right between the defensive end's arms. It was very impressive. So he was poised. He didn't get flustered with guys in his face. The deep throw, man, that was the big takeaway for me with him because a lot of I've always said you either have the deep throw or you don't. A lot of times that's very hard to teach. You either have the touch or you don't. Obviously, you had a drop again by Pope, and that's something I can talk about later on in our time here. But it was very impressive, very impressive from Jake
We
Garcia
will
today.
definitely talk about wide receiver play.
I have lots to
But
say.
no,
Lots
I,
to
I I felt like Jake Garcia, man. I thought he has a beautiful deep ball pass. It's unfortunate at times. Some wide receivers didn't, finish, the play for him. But man, I thought he was very impressed. I thought he had tremendous pocket presence. Maybe at times, if I'm being picky, he held on to the ball too long. And I think in a
say.
less modified game, they'll get to him. But I felt like we have a future starting quarterback at the University of Miami. Not to take anything from
One,
Tyler Van Dyke, because I also think he is a Power Five starter. But I'm just
yeah.
all in with Jake Garcia, baby. I love this
One
kid,
thing,
man. I
one
fell
thing
in
I'll
love.
say about Jake Garcia, yeah, one thing I'll say about Jake Garcia is he's really smooth. He's super smooth with the
Yes.
ball. It seems like he seems like he has a plan every time he drops back, and that's something that I love. It just a lot of the times we have these guys that either played different positions coming up, and they kind of found their place as a quarterback. He looks like a smooth, and he looks like a quarterback that is made to be quarterback. He looks like he knows what he's doing out there. I want to say one thing about Tyler Van Dyke. Tyler Van Dyke's arm is something that really truly gets me excited. There was a play where he was flat-footed, literally flat-footed,
Yep.
and he threw a ball 20 yards across the field, right in the hands, right in the numbers, and that was something that kind of like I turned my head and turned to my dad. I said, "Wow, that's a strong arm." I think Tyler Van Dyke has a lot of potential as well. It's going to be so fun. Next year is going to be really fun because obviously Derek King's going to be gone, and
Yep.
it's going to be them two really pushing each other to see who gets the starting job. And that's what you want. That's ultimately what you want at Green Tree. You want competition because you're
We
going to get the best guy.
This is the first time at Miami that I could recall that our two backup quarterbacks from our starting quarterback, De'Ara King, could be Power Five starters at a heavy
Mhm.
majority of Power Five schools. Honestly, Tyler
Yeah.
Van Dyke, Jake Garcia, I think under Rhett Lashley's offense, they can be stars. I'm really like just heavily favorited on Jake Garcia just as my preference.
Yeah.
I think he's more mobile in the pocket. Like you stated at times, I felt like Tyler Van Dyke, he was flat-footed, and I think that'll come with time and
Mhm.
development under Rhett Lashley. But both have great
Mhm.
arms. I was extremely impressed. No, I thought they did an outstanding job leading passes with their wide receivers as well. Something we've that's hasn't been
Yeah.
happening at Miami. I thought
Oh,
there was one. I don't know if it was a deep post route, but man, I think it was with Wiggins. beautiful pass. It's unfortunate he didn't finish. And we'll get into the wide receiver play, but I think we have two-star quarterbacks. The key is going to be, if Rhett Lashley is going to stay at Miami and supervise
Yeah.
these quarterbacks so they can develop, but that comes with time. We don't know what the future has to hold.
I
But I think this is the first time, though, like in a spring game, I've seen backup quarterbacks really shine.
Yeah, and I tweeted out earlier during the game. I said I think this is the most talented quarterback room we probably had since the '80s, and that's a real thing.
Really.
I really feel that because when's the last time we feel like okay, we have a stud at starting quarterback in Derek King, and then the two guys behind that, you feel like yeah, they're inexperienced, they're young, but you feel like after a couple games of ACC play, you can go out there with them and win games. When's the last time we had that? A lot of the times you have a starting quarterback at the U, and then the guys behind him, you have absolutely zero faith in. I really feel like with Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia, if something were to happen to Derek King, I feel like, the sky will not fall. I feel like you can go out there and you can win games with both guys.
Kev, I wanted to jump into offensive line. We'll get there. Let's go straight to wide receiver rotation,
Yeah.
wide receiver play as a whole. I think we've identified kind of our wide receiver rotation kind of sinking in. In my opinion, Mike Harley is going to be your leader. Charleston Rambo, I mean, it's going to be a nice 1-2 punch. That transition from the Big 12 to ACC play, he's going to make a lot of noise. And Xavier Restrepo showed out. He made a beautiful touchdown pass. He tiptoed his way into the end zone. I mean, you can't teach that. And I thought and even Dazzling Warsham as well. He was very fluid in his route running. He looked very physical. I thought he
Yep.
looked great for an underclassman. I think we're finally seeing our wide receiver core strengthen. What are your thoughts?
The guys that need to be the top four receivers are 100% Harley, Charleston Rambo, Keyshawn Washington, and Restrepo. Those are the top four guys. You need to get those guys on the field as much as possible. Wiggins and Pope need to be done. In my mind, they are second string receivers. They are guys that are going to come in and get reps every once in a while. But to rely on these two guys, we can't rely on them anymore. You have guys out there that are true freshmen making plays on the ball, making catches, not dropping passes. And these guys have been in our system for years, and they can't. Pope dropped the ball where literally there was no one within 20 yards. Like that pass where he was on the side towards the sideline, and it was like a 20, 30-yard pass, and he just drops it.
Right.
There's no one within 20 yards of him. So you can't use the
No,
excuse of feeling footsteps. The guy's in his own head. It's done. He's done.
it's unfortunate, and it takes away, our offensive firepower from quarterback play. Like I stated, Jake Garcia, he drops a dime, and D. Wiggins doesn't finish. Mark Pope is literally wide open. There's no one touching him. It's an easy 6 touchdown. He drops the pass. It's a mental thing, and I think we need to move away from it. We need to go with the guys who are going to make plays for us when it's third down to convert, a drive, a game-winning drive. Who you're going to go to? Xavier Restrepo, Charleston Rambo, Mike Harley. Those are your guys. I think Dazzling Warsham, he showed me a lot. I was really impressed just with his measurements and just his route running in general. I thought he was very advanced as an underclassman.
The problem with receivers dropping passes, Paul, is because also your first game of the season is Alabama. Realistically, like you cannot have dimes being thrown to receivers and being dropped. Like every pass is important in that game. If you want to have a shot, I don't think we have a shot, but if you want to have a shot going into the fourth quarter, you cannot have guys on the field that give second chances to a defense like Alabama. So they need to get guys on the field that they can rely on. And I love Pope and Wiggins. I love the dedication to the community and the dedication to the program. But it's about winning games, and they're not two of the best receivers on the team. They're just not.
By the way, Dante Johnson, I honestly didn't know about him. I think he's a preferred
Yes.
walk-on.
Who
Welcome
was
to
that
the University
guy?
of Miami. I think everyone had that same thought in their head. Who is number 88?
I was like,
He looked like
he's huge. I was like, he's huge, man. Like,
Dante Johnson looked like an ACC wide receiver or a Power 5 wide receiver. I mean, he looked the part.
Jesus, man, he was huge. I was like, who is that guy? I turned to my dad. I'm like, who is that guy? And it's easy for me to not know players. And I'm like,
yes,
he's getting run too. I was like, he was playing a lot. And I was like, who is this guy? At first, I thought he was Keyshawn Smith. I forgot Keyshawn Smith changed his number. Yeah. And at first, I was like, yeah, Keyshawn Smith, he got huge. But then I saw Johnson. I was like, who who is this guy? Yeah, he
Um,
looks good. I mean, I'm all about it.
by the way, Keyshawn Smith, I thought well, someone stated he looked hungry. I thought he looked really good, very smooth. You can tell he's
Oh yeah,
very elite. His skill set that he brings on the field.
oh yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add from the wide receiver play before we move to offensive line?
I think wide receiver play is. I think it's going to be heavily improved with Charleston Rambo this year. You have a proven guy that came from a pass-heavy conference that is used to getting a lot of burn, used to getting a lot of receptions, especially in 2019. Um, Adding him is going to be a nice safety blanket, especially for Derek King. Him and Mike Harley, I think, is one of the best top two dynamic duos, especially in the ACC. I think you're building depth. I think you didn't even really see Romello. I don't even know if Romello was on the field today or if he got burned, but you're adding guys depth. You're adding, like they said it on the broadcast, you're finally starting to get recruiting is getting to the point where you're adding guys, you're adding talent on top of talent on top of talent. I think you're finally getting to the point of these receivers are becoming Miami caliber receivers.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I think, we're transitioning through the Ron Dugan's wide receiver core, those recruits that came into the Rob Likens era. And there was that small little
Mm-hmm.
bump with Taylor Stubblefield's recruits coming in for that 1 year. This is the Rob uh, Likens wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
core we're seeing. He's going to play his guys, his personnel. There was a quote this offseason where he stated, he was scared. He didn't know who to put in the game because no one knew the playbook. So he was very scared on certain players going into the game. So I hope this upcoming season, understanding the playbook for a second year under Rhett Lashley, be more confident and give some younger guys some burn on the field.
Yep. Agree.
Offensive line. What I know Jared Williams was not starting today. I got the first team offensive line right here. You had Zion Nelson at left tackle, left guard Ja'Kai Clark, Corey Gaynor at center, right guard Navon Donaldson. Then your right tackle is Scaife. What do you think about that first team offensive line?
I'm going to give just my overall early observations. One, Zion Nelson looks like a man child. Like he looks ginormous. I like what they've done with his body, especially coming off of last year. I think he always kind of he was kind of almost too ripped, in my opinion. I think now he's finally starting to put on a little more poundage, a little more weight to help support that build. Um, I think Navon Donaldson is something that is going to really anchor the line, especially you see him, he's just in so much better shape. You already can see. And that's someone I'm rooting heavily for, man, because his freshman year, he looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick. And, he just couldn't lay off the food. And unfortunately, that kind of knocked him back a little bit, helped his health issues had problems. And, that's someone I'm really rooting for. I think is going to anchor the line. The line's going to be improved. The only thing I saw in the spring game, especially, is it still looks like the running, the running is a problem every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah.
I saw plays that were just blown up and no one could go anywhere. Especially when Cameron Harris was on the field. So I don't know who was in at that time, but there were times where plays were just blown up. I know
Yeah.
that was a problem in the past every once in a while where we just couldn't run the ball, especially against good defenses. I think the pass pro is going to be great this year. I think it's going to be definitely above average. It's just the running is something that I think we still need to improve on, but it's going to be a lot better. I mean, the litmus test is going to be the first game. I mean, if we're being real, we'll know
Yeah.
real quickly. we'll
Yeah,
know real.
absolutely. We'll figure out about this offensive line. One quarter in, we'll know a lot, no doubt.
Exactly.
I think we're trying to develop a first team offensive line. I think Jared Williams will be a part of that first team offensive line, and then we're just going to build from there. And I
Mhm.
think this first team offensive line, I don't know if it matches well personnel wise all four quarters against Alabama's D line. If it can win the battle of the trenches,
Most
I
people
highly
don't
doubt
know.
it.
Most
Most
students
people do
don't
not.
know. So,
But I think this can get you through ACC conference play. And I think that's what we need. Let's just build off of this base and just move forward. I think they did enough to give their quarterbacks that time enough time in the pocket to
mhm.
deliver and make throws, and
And you got
that
to
was
remember
big for me.
too. And you got to remember too. You have Derek King. Hopefully, he comes back fully healthy and he feels comfortable running and moving around the pocket because obviously that is something that is always going to help the offensive line having a mobile quarterback like him. And then Red Lashley's offense always helps the offensive line too. They'll be heavily improved this year. I think that will never. I think that won't be a really big problem for us this year.
Moving over to defensive line for me, this was a big area to look out for. It's a different unit. You were losing Rousseau, Phillips, Roche, three NFL draft prospects. New edge rushers coming in at defensive end. How do you think they performed? I know it's a very modified scrimmage where you can't get to the quarterback. I mean, honestly, you just tap them and that's
Mhm.
it. You can't wrap up. So how do you
Yep.
think they did?
I'm worried. I mean, I'm
Really?
being honest. I'm worried. I think you have a lot of guys that aren't proven. Um, I need Jafari Harvey to be that guy. I think he needs to step up big time. I
Okay.
don't know how good Deontay Johnson's going to be. I really don't.
Yeah.
He was late to the game, not actually, but late to the game, and as far as spring practice
Right. Right. Right.
is concerned. So we don't really know on that how he's going to perform, but I'm worried just as a simple fact of experience wise where we're going to be. I think Miami's always going to have athletes on the defensive line. That's just something we've always had. But, and I'll hit on it later, I think the defensive backfield is going to be heavily improved. So that's something that maybe will help the defensive line. But I think, like you said, it's hard in the scrimmage because they're not really able to wrap up. You see things where they're going to blow the whistle. You don't really know how plays are going to play out. Um, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be at the worst average. Um, but I need to see what happens with Jafari Harvey, Deontay Johnson. Last year we went in with just guys that were. I guess you could say the same thing about Jalen Phillips. Who knows? He wasn't really proven going into last year, and he had a huge year. But I'm kind of curious of what you think, just because hard in a scrimmage, it really is.
Yeah, my whole thing is, I'm not expecting this group to reach the standard, the expectations that we've seen in the past at defensive end. We've been very spoiled with great defensive end play. We've had outstanding edge rushers. I mean, we're seeing three potential NFL talents right here get drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Mhm.
So we've been very spoiled in that market, and I hope as fans our expectations come down to a reality per se, and we don't get too big headed like, god, these guys aren't playing up to the Miami standard the past few seasons. It's because we've been so
Mhm.
spoiled with that. But I'm not expecting a crazy season. I think a kind of a distributed sack amount of 4 sacks, either if it's Harvey, Cam Williams, or DeAndre Johnson. I think 4 sacks is obtainable for each of those
Mhm.
players, and I think they can get there. But I don't think no one's going to get surpass 10 sacks. I think it's going to be a solid group in ACC play.
100%. It's going to be a team effort this year, like you said. It's going to be guys uh, getting 3, 4 sacks each, maybe five. Kind of doing a team effort to where you're not having two guys just have 10+ sacks like we've had in the past. You're gonna have It's gonna be a group effort. Every guy. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a heavy rotation. You're not gonna have guys that are just gonna straight up solidify themselves. Maybe only Deontay Johnson will, just because of his experience. I don't think you're going to have a solidified two guys that are in there 80% of the time, 85% of the time. And then there's a rotation. I think it's going to be a heavy rotation with Cam Williams, Jafari Harvey, Deontay Johnson, a bunch of other young guys getting some burn, just to see who is going to be that guy. Those guys that are really going to anchor that defensive end spot. I think the D line will be fine. I think Harrison Hunt's going to take a massive jump. I think Jonathan Ford, he's always just kind of there, but he's reliable. He's reliable to kind of stuff the middle. You have Jordan Miller, which I hope takes a huge step this year. I feel like he kind of had
Yeah.
a down year last year. I really felt like he was going to take big strides last year, but he kind of just was very, very, very average. So I'm hoping guys like Harrison Hunt and Jordan Miller take massive steps this year and can really solidify the middle of the line.
Great question coming in. This was the first time we get to see our secondary live in a scrimmage under the new direction of Travaris Robinson. Kev, what'd you think about the first action of seeing the secondary in play? I'll tell you what, I thought they were a lot more aggressive, a lot more physical.
Mhm.
There were a couple missed tackles. I like to nitpick at things. Something I noticed, I think it was Ivy on a down and out on. I'm trying to think of the player. Maybe it was Keyshawn Smith. I could be wrong on that, but he couldn't wrap up, and that led to probably 10 more yards on the play, which should have just been a quick 8-yard gain.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the secondary? I think Tyreek Stevenson is going to do great.
Super happy the secondary, just straight up, like from the beginning, from the jump. You can tell, obviously, you can tell from the quarterback stacks. You'd say, oh, they had a bad day, because I mean the quarterbacks kind of had good days, both of them. But what I love is what you talked about, the physicality. You can tell there's a different mentality in the defensive backfield now. Avante Williams is going to be an absolute stud. Dude, that guy, he flies to the ball. He looks like a senior out there. And then you add Bubba Bolden. I think Gervin Hall. God, I hope so much for Gervin Hall to be the Gervin Hall that we thought he was going to be. After his freshman year and sophomore year, like he's kind of just been that guy in limbo where he makes plays every once in a while, but he also disappears
Right.
half the time, and you're
Great
kind of
pick.
wondering where
Yep.
is he? Where is he making plays?
Great pick.
So you have that that have potential. So I'm hoping Tavares Robinson can get it out of him, but you can already see a mentality change. The guys seemed fiery out there today. That's something that I love to see because a lot of times you can
Yeah.
see them kind of take plays off. You saw every play they played with a mentality. You saw it was changed. You saw they came out to play. One guy that really stuck out for me was Isaiah Dunson, and ever since we
Yes.
signed him,
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a stud here. Ever since we signed him, I like his body type. Um, and he made a ton of great plays today on the ball. Like he went up for balls and he made great plays on the ball. And that's a guy I think in the future he's going to end up being a very solid corner for us, and that's good for depth because something that we've always struggled with for the last couple of years at Miami was depth at the defensive back position, especially the cornerback position. So Al Blades and DJ Ivy hopefully solidifying those sides with Stevenson, kind of being that main guy on the cornerback spot. But having Isaiah Dunson and hopefully Marcus Clark, that's a solid rotation that you're going to have at the cornerback position. So I was impressed.
Yeah.
You can tell there's a different mentality going into the defensive backfield.
I left very content after this scrimmage with our secondary. Like I think you stated it perfectly. Isaiah Dunson was one player that stood out to me. I felt like he kind of blew up physically, coming from this past season to this year. His strength and conditioning program really did him right.
He was a
The
stick
Coach
last
Bailey
year.
effect. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
he really put on great
100%.
weight, muscle. So I think he's going to be a contributing to the cornerback room this upcoming season. Tyreek Stevenson. Then you're adding to Corey Couch, who didn't play. You have Al Blades, DJ Ivy. This is starting to become, like you stated, a heavy depth rotation at the cornerback position where it used to be you just had your two starters and hopefully, your
They
nickel
don't
would
go.
contribute, underclassmen. We'll see what happens. Now it's like, hey, your backups actually can contribute at ACC conference
100%.
level of play. So, we are getting better. We are developing in that position, and Travaris Robinson is the right guy to coach that unit. And Gervin Hall, like you stated, I think there was a quote from Travaris Robinson. He really praised Gervin Hall's skill set, his attributes that he brings to the table. And, I think if he puts it all together for one season, it can be a special year. It's just consistency.
With him, it's always been it's been a head game. I think with him, he has the physical tools. We all know it. It just seems like sometimes you'll find guys get behind him and beat him, and it seems like he's just in his own head and he's not fully in the play. So I think if he just doesn't take plays off this year and just plays every play like it's the end of the game, I think he's gonna have a fantastic year. Hopefully Robinson really gets the best out of him. I want to talk about the linebackers. What do
Yeah,
you think?
yeah. Linebacker play, um, hmm, that's a great question. That's still a question mark for me, to be honest. I need to see more. It's one scrimmage. Bradley Jennings got a lot of action throughout the game.
Ugh,
I think he's going to be our starting. He's going to be one of our starters in the rotation. Um, I need to see more, to be honest. Corey, I mean, it's very limited, so
yeah,
it's not the best. it's not the best, assumption to make right now, in my opinion, instead of like live games during the regular season, but nothing out of the ordinary for me personally.
I think Corey Flagg is going to be a star at this
Right,
school.
right. Besides
I,
Corey Flagg. Yeah, yeah. Corey
yeah,
Flagg's
I
going to be a
think
star.
Corey Flagg.
Yeah.
When the TV came on and they showed him the size that man has put on, and you could tell that he looks the part now. That man is a middle linebacker anchoring a defense. Like that's your guy right there.
I got
Where it's
Kane's
going to
edit.
come into play is who's going to be that other linebacker. That's the problem.
Kev, I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you want to keep going, by all means, you can stay, talk some Canes football. I know you have a family. You just had a newborn. I'm going to bring in Canes edit James right now. I'm going to welcome into the show.
Yo,
We got,
what's going on?
what's up,
Thank you, man.
James? We got Canes edit coming on the show to talk some Canes football. What's up, James? How you doing, man? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. James, what are your thoughts, man, of the spring scrimmage? In my opinion, I think it was the Jake Garcia show. Welcome to the University of Miami.
Well, that's what I was telling you before, that I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if talks of him starting as a true freshman. Obviously, I would still want King to start and get that starting position, but I think that what you're seeing with Jake might be a generational talent. Absolutely, a quarterback.
Yeah. No, 100%. I thought that's exactly what I thought about Jake Garcia, and you stated it multiple times on our Canes After Dark shows. I mean, you're very big on Jake Garcia. If
Absolutely.
he stays with Rhett Lashley as his offensive coordinator, I know that's a big if for the next 3 years that he's at Miami.
Mhm.
I think we have that missing piece. We part of the offense, that star that Manny Diaz was looking for at the quarterback position when he stepped on that press conference and said the Miami standard had to change.
I think so. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we made the big push to get him. We know what talent he was when he was in Georgia, and we saw some of the games in Georgia that he played in, and some of the accurate throws he had. And he just needed somebody like a Restrepo or one maybe like a Rambo to be able to go down the field and make those plays. I think that Jake Garcia should be somebody that comes in whenever we pull King out, just to be able to get in there and get some game experience right away, and have him hit the ground ready next year. For if that's what the stars line up and he's ready to be a starting quarterback next year, he has that game experience.
Yeah. And I don't want to take away from Tyler Van Dyke, because I felt like he is a potential Power 5 starter. I just felt like Jake Garcia, for only a semester on campus, I mean, he's very advanced for his age, man. He has a can of an arm. He created a great connection and chemistry with Charleston Rambo on that one drive. I think it was towards the end of the first quarter. Man, I just love everything about him. At times, maybe he held on to the ball in a less modified scrimmage. It's going to get you. But man, he connected with some great deep ball passes with D. Wiggins. He didn't finish. I thought he was very advanced for his age.
I think so. I think we're starting to see flashes of what might be. And of course, it's too early to tell anything. I tell people we won't know until the fall season comes how any of this will play out. This is maybe a teaser trailer into what could potentially be, but we won't know where the cards fall. We won't know how everything lines up until maybe the fall season comes.
What did you think about this starting 5 offensive line that we had? Because I know Jared Williams was not able to participate, but in my opinion, I think this is a similar base we're going to see throughout the season. We just need to build off of it.
I think so. I think we got a solid starting piece.
Yeah.
Maybe we could rotate some guys in and out. But I think that this is the best I've seen an offensive line look in Miami for a little bit.
James, remember that 2019 spring scrimmage where like the quarterback literally would just snap the ball and like the edge rushers were just on top of him? Like I think that issue has been corrected, and I think the quarterbacks had at times a lot of time to get the ball out.
I think so. Like I said, I'm more excited about this year than I have been about other years. I know it sounds so cliche, everybody always says that, but with somebody so established as King, and now we got quarterback depth, and we got what we need, I think, to be able to challenge for that ACC championship. Whether we can get it or not, I have no idea, but I would like to at least get there. That should be the base. The non-negotiables for Manny Diaz should be getting to at least the ACC Coastal game. Not losing against UNC, not losing against a myriad of basketball schools in the ACC or
Yeah.
ACC. So
I 100% agree. I think that's the ceiling, winning the ACC Coastal, playing Clemson. James, I think the difference between a top 25 program in that 15 to 25 range to crashing the top 10 are the little things. Can your wide receivers finish plays? Are you going to drop passes? Are you going to commit over 100 yards in penalties, for example, in a game? How disciplined is your football team? Because the elite ones with the elite players, who are properly coached, they can get away with some penalties here and there because they're that elite. They just have 5 stars everywhere, the Alabamas. But, that's the difference between a top 10 team that's
yeah,
contending for the national title, the college football playoffs year in and year out. How disciplined are you as a football team? And I think that's what can get us over that hump and compete for the ACC title.
I think so. I'm rooting on Manny Diaz as we go on. Obviously,
Yeah.
we want to see that. But I mean, if we fail to get there this is fourth year now, right? It's fourth season now.
Third year. I want to say 2019 and 2020. This will be his third year.
Okay,
Yeah.
his third. If he feels where he comes up very short on his third year, then I don't know if the negotiation for the fourth year should be there. I mean, we got to see some kind of advancement past in year 3. So
one thing I will say that I've been very content with is that he's improving positions slowly throughout every offseason. And I think cornerback play, it's a complete 180. And I think that improvement has shown. Isaiah Dunson, he's going to be another great player at the University of Miami. Tyreek Stevenson, those are 2 players who, Common said it best, played lights out today.
I think so. I think that we're starting to finally see a change. And that's more important for recruiting. Because we're so lackluster in getting top cornerbacks to even come here. I think Tyreek, even as a transfer, was the first 5-star we've had since Tracy Howard at corner.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was almost a decade ago. But if we could turn the tide of even marketing to people saying that, hey, look, we're making changes in the DB room. Cornerbacks, this is a place for you guys to come and flourish. I think that would go a long way to getting the message out there that Miami's back as a cornerback school.
James, I'm curious, what do you think about this wide receiver rotation and how we stack up from past, wide receiver play? Because I want to take the attention off of Pope and Wiggins. I understand, they're frustrating a lot of people, but let's focus on the positives right now in the wide receiver rotation. What did you think?
Restrepo, you'd have to put him out there as one of the first people out there,
Yeah.
Smith, I think Smith was out there. He did good.
Yeah.
Rambo, obviously, I don't think he came here to be a second guy. So I mean, you got plenty of people that can start for the job right now. I don't think that we don't owe anybody any kind of seniority. It should be whoever's the best should get the spot.
I truly think Restrepo's a little bit more advanced than Braxton Berrios was right now at this stage of the game.
100%. Yes.
And that's what excites me. I think he's a playmaker. You want to get him involved in the offense, whether it's a wide receiver reverse, returning punts. However, you want to get Restrepo involved because he's going to make plays for you. Charleston Rambo, that's your X factor. I was it you that told me that he was going to win us 2 or 3 games this upcoming season?
I don't think so, but I could see it. I could see it.
He's that X factor we've been missing at Miami. I think if I had to compare kind of players coming in at the wide receiver position from the transfer portal, I would rather take him over KJ Osborne. I thought KJ Osborne did a great job. I just think he's going to be that good.
Yeah, I don't dispute that at all. I would say that that's accurate.
And we know what we're going to get with Mike Harley. He's our veteran
he's a solid guy. He's a solid wide receiver that you could throw to get a first down, always going to make a play. So, I mean, I like him as someone that's the solid role there, But we definitely got superstar potential with Restrepo, with Rambo, So.
Do you think we'll see Pope and Wiggins throughout the season, or this is it? You've seen enough, or,
Man, if it was my call, I would maybe try them at kick return, punt return, and see what happens from there. See if they could build up because they have all the tools they need to become
Right.
great wide receivers.
Right.
What exactly is going on with them mentally, I have no idea. But I think that there should be like a re-breaking in for them to get more playing time, to earn it, because that's basically what it is.
What do you think about Dazzling Worsham? I thought he looked very impressive. The underclassmen, him and Keyshawn Smith, I thought he looked very fluid in his route running. I thought, he shows great ball skills. I was really impressed due to his, kind of past high school history. And credit to this coaching staff for evaluating him out of Alabama. Did you get kind of that same vibe with any other underclassmen that stood out?
Um, I did like Worsham out there. Yeah.
Worsham. No, he
Yeah,
looks really good.
I think so. I think so. Absolutely. So I mean,
James,
it's about keeping the flow of talent steady and going up as the years go on. So maybe we can get some guys some playing time as soon as we start. Hopefully blowing some teams out. I think that's always been important, and we got to keep doing more of it.
James, I want to transition over to the trenches, defensive line. This is a new group. These are new edge rushers coming in, defensive tackle. A lot of players are returning. What were your first thoughts about this D line? And I know we're trying to compare it to past defensive lines at Miami, which is a big stretch, but hey, that is the standard. At Miami is producing great defensive lines.
Nesta wasn't out there, so I was like, we couldn't really tell
Right.
what the defensive line could be at its potential. But I've never been worried about the defensive line in Miami. I think that Miami's always had a way to produce very solid players going forward at the defensive line and at defensive end. So maybe McLeod. I would like to see McLeod out there.
Yeah.
And see more of McLeod as a defensive end. I'm rooting for the guy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
1,000%. I mean, we right now we can't. I couldn't get a very good glimpse of what the defense is. A lot of people say that they I saw on Twitter they look very lackluster, but we in reality won't know until the fall comes what all this is going to shape out to be.
100% agree. For me personally, I feel like mentally your edge rushers, aren't going to be as aggressive if you can't get to the quarterback. You're just going to tap them and that's it. I mean, you call it a sack. So I've never, you can't really get a good idea, personally, in my opinion, of what your edge rushers are going to bring to the table in a modified scrimmage. So we'll learn a lot more about these guys, come Alabama against their offensive line, which is going to be stellar. And, throughout the season. Throughout the season.
Alabama's offensive line looks completely crazy.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's gonna be a program evaluator. Go ahead, James.
That might be their best offensive line in years, actually.
Really?
As scary as that sounds, yeah.
It's going to be a program evaluator for Miami. How far or how close we are, I think we saw against Clemson last year.
Man, I'm probably not going to go to Atlanta. I mean, everybody asks me if I'm going to go. I don't know if I go. It's because I want to go out for the food, the scenery. I'll obviously go to the game, but I'm not expecting much of the game. What you're expecting, hopefully, to see is that we have enough potential to keep up with a program like Bama. The fan in me says we're going to go up there and whoop their ass. That's just me watching the team. But I mean, we live in we have to be realistic at some point. There's pieces that we're missing that they have and they've established. So.
And to touch up on, going to Atlanta, the thing about these neutral site games is it's a lot of time you're investing because Uber prices are like inflated to a high amount. So are hotel rooms. Everything's very, kind of contained and censored in one area. So it takes a lot of energy to prepare and travel. And I'm very burnt out. I'm gonna try to go to Atlanta, but I did Dallas, I did Orlando. It's really exhausting.
Orlando was a mess. I was up there. What a mess, man.
Yeah, no. And there was a Backstreet Boys concert that same night. Oh my god.
Uber surge prices were like $240, something ridiculous.
I waited till 2 a.m. just for it to go down, and it
No
didn't
way.
even go down. It didn't even go down. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I think Alabama's going to be a similar situation, especially I think it's is it on? I think it's like a holiday weekend as well. I'm bad with my dates.
Man, I don't know. Like I said, I am like 80% sure I probably won't go. But if I do end up somehow going, it's really, I mean, I'm still gonna rep the U always. I'm gonna,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna let fans talk shit. We got to get down in the trenches ourselves as fans if they start. But at the same time, we can't expect much. I'm just gonna hopefully get a touchdown or two on them and go crazy, extra loud, even louder than Bama fans if we do get that, and at least show that we have potential to keep up with a future championship team.
James, a lot of people in the comment section, mixed reviews on our linebacker play today. Kind of what are your thoughts? I know we saw a lot of Bradley Jennings. I love Corey Flagg. I think he's going to be a star. A little bit of Tyreek Austin Cave as well. Want to hear your thoughts regarding our linebacker core.
It was okay. I think that
Yeah,
we're going to be rotating them. We're going to be
yeah,
rotating them. We've struggled at linebacker, so I'm not sold on anything I saw today.
right.
We're going to be rotating people until the fall, and until I can get a good glimpse against another team, then I can't really comment on what the linebackers will be. I mean, they were what they were today,
Yeah,
but I'm not here to overhype people on the team. I'm not. We have issues. We're looking at a very small glimpse of what could be, and until we line up against the UNCs, until the GTs, until we line up against those people in the ACC Coastal, we won't know what this team really is.
100% agree. We will find out a lot more when
I
it's the
don't even
regular season.
I don't even think Bama will give us really a full detail because I don't know if Manny's going to play it to where if it's looking too bad out there just to pull the dogs and be like, hey, look, man, we still got a whole season ahead of us. This Bama game is what it is, and we still got to win the Coastal. So if that happens, I won't be mad at Manny at all. That's called just playing it smart, I
Right.
mean, why would you go out there and exhaust and put physical harm all your best pieces out there that could compete? I'm not saying that we should run away, forfeit, whatever. You should give it your best shot. But if it is what it is and people are down, we're down way too bad. There's nothing to prove by just going out there and getting hurt anymore. There's a time where you just have to know when to fold them, like Kenny Rogers says. So, you got to learn when to fold them and gear up for the next game.
Absolutely.
This is a championship team that they still got many, many championship pieces that were there last year. So, I mean, this is what are you expecting from the Alabama game?
I'm expecting your first game of the year, and it's every program. It's not. It's kind of It's kind of like a spring game per se because it's the first time everyone's playing together this upcoming season. So you're not going to see your best team. Nobody plays their best game the first game of the year. What I'm
Yeah.
expecting is a team that is disciplined, doesn't commit a lot of penalties. That will be great. Doesn't commit a lot of turnovers. Isn't caught up in the bright lights. Okay, they're not caught up with the crimson red. That's something we've seen in past. We're in Death Valley, in Charlotte. When it's a big time game at times, an away game specifically, or not at Hard Rock Stadium, we get caught up in the bright lights. Okay, we talk a big game and we don't back it up. We saw this in Dallas. Okay, we need to slow the game down early on, first couple drives. We can't commit turnovers. We need to know our assignments. We need to play Miami Hurricanes football. I want to see a team that fights all four quarters. And if you give me that with a disciplined football team that doesn't commit a lot of penalties, I will be happy. I don't know. I'm curious how we are going to compete all four quarters against the reigning national champions. I want to see how our secondary responds against Bryce Young and their wide receiver core. How does our offensive line look against their D line? So there's a lot of question marks. And once again, it's a program evaluator game, James. So it'll tell me a lot how far or how close we are to Alabama and its coaching staff into a national title
Do
program
you think
year in
that
and year out.
if there's a point where you just got to fold your cards, you think that there's nothing wrong with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Move on. Put the game in the past and just move on. Think week 2.
And
100%.
and I tell people if that happens, I still don't think that's any. There's no indictment on any coach or player yet because what you be seeing at the beginning of game one, the first game of the first season, may not be the product that you end up at the end.
100%.
Because I've seen many, many instances where we started one way, and I'm like, wow, if we would have played them again,
Yep.
maybe the game would have been completely different because now we're clicking on all cylinders. Where the camaraderie's there, the energy's there, the synergy's there. Everybody's connecting. Everybody's, but that may take a couple games into the season to get there.
James, key takeaways going into the Alabama game as a program compared to other spring practices. I think we look a lot better. Just quick key takeaways going into the fall season.
Um, I want to obviously continue for King to heal up and be ready for the game, first game of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's resting. Garcia looked great out there, but I mean, you're never going to pick somebody who doesn't have any game experience against someone who looks as good as King does, marching us down the field. So I mean, King is a big part of that. Getting the linebacker situation situated the right way and make sure that when we go out there, not everybody looks lost. Just go out there and play. I mean, hopefully, I like where the coaches are mentally, and I like where the coaches are in year three as far as getting the players ready. So I think that has to be taken into account. I think Mallory's going to be a big part of that. The tight ends, that's always been a big part of our game. So we need the tight ends to step up and be ready for a Bam as well.
Absolutely. No, 100% agree. James, anything else you want to add before I bring on my next guest to the show?
No, just keep repping, man. It's all about that you, no matter what happens. We're
it.
here. I'm gonna be here way past this season, next season until I can't even watch TV no more, maybe. And then I'll hear it through the live stream in the future sometime if that happens. So.
Cool. All right, James, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so
Okay,
much for
man.
your time. Takes on the University of Miami fall game scrimmage. Sorry, and thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, guys, going to bring on my next guest. First off, we have 170 people on live with us right now. So thank you to everyone that is joining. Make sure if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the like button, support the channel. It's been running off of over 2 years, so I greatly appreciate everyone's support, and it will get better. The channel will grow. So thank you, guys. I like to bring in everyone's different perspectives because at the end of the day, we all love the University of Miami. I'm going to bring on a big Miami Hurricanes fan right now. But if you have any questions, any comments you want to talk about the game, put it in the comment section while we wait for my next guest to come on the show. See some comments. Keep repping and quit talking. The Miami going to lose. I'm so sick of the rhetorics. Gotta love it, man. What's up, Cole? How you doing, man?
Oh, what's good, Pete?
Good, bro. Thank you. I appreciate your time coming on the show, man. What are your thoughts about the spring game?
First and foremost, I don't get too excited about the spring game, but
Right,
today
100%.
was definitely something to look for. I thought both quarterbacks threw a really nice ball. I thought some of the receivers stepped up. Keyshawn Smith seems like he's going to be a force moving forward. Mike Harley looked solid. Rambo looked amazing. They featured Rambo on one drive, just back to back to back to back,
Yes.
and I thought he did really well. Same stuff with 6 and 8 with the drops. I mean, obviously, Wiggins made a couple nice catches down the road, and Pope had a nice catch as well. But man, still the drops are there, and I don't know, man. I don't know the drops.
I wholeheartedly agree. I hate singling out players, man. I know we talk about this, but it's a mental thing. I don't know if you can teach, how to avoid dropping passes. That's kind of on the wide receivers. Are you doing the extra work on the jug machine after practice? And I think it's just a mental confidence thing. It's unfortunate because Jake Garcia, he threw a beautiful pass to D Wiggins. He couldn't wrap up. Mark Pope was wide open, so I don't get it. I really don't. The one positive I will say, I think we've identified our 3 wide receivers going into this season. Charleston Rambo is going to be a stud.
Rambo, Harley, and again, I like Keyshawn Smith. I mean, obviously, Pope was running with the 2s a lot. And I did like because TVD did start running with the 1s when they first started the spring game. And then they did mix it up. They put Jake in with the 1s. They put TVD with the 2s. So I do like the balance that they were going back and forth with. Again, it's still spring ball, still early. But there was a little bit of creativity that I did see from time to time. So I know they don't really show a lot. But at the same time, it was nice to see the offense moving down the field. Short passes, quick passes, stretching the field. Even Peyton Matoka threw a beautiful ball down the sideline. Wiggins actually came down with it. Maybe it was that soft touch by Matoka while he caught it, but I mean, at least he caught the ball.
Yeah, this is the first time I think I've seen a quarterback room this deep at Miami that you can say your backup and your third string can actually start at a Power 5 program. And it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there wasn't a lot of running. Obviously, there was a nice run by Jalen Knighton, but really, I think the spring game today was mostly focused on the passing game. If you notice, there wasn't a lot of runs. Um, Defense looked okay. I thought from time to time they were out of position, but again, those are things that can get worked on. There's a lot of guys
Right.
that are out, so obviously that plays a part in it as well. But all in all, I was kind of impressed.
Yeah.
One thing that people don't really see. Um, by watching the spring game was there was a lot of alumni that were there. It kind of scattered throughout. KJ Osborne was there, Malik Rozier was there, John Beeson was there.
Yeah.
I ran into Willie Williams, like bro, like Willie Williams to me, and I brought up a picture where I saw him and he had walked by, and I'm like, yo, 1-7. And he just like literally turned his head real quick because I'm a big believer in respect. And you put that helmet on and you put that number on, that's what I'm going to call you by. So when he heard 1-7, like his eyes just panned and like, who's calling me 1-7? And I brought a picture up with him and T Good from back in the days, and they were both full of golds in their mouth, man. And I showed him. He's like, bro, that's a throwback. So I got a good picture with Willie Williams. So, but it was there were some other people that were there, and to me that's impressive just to get the alumni. Jose Borregales was there. Obviously, his younger brother Andy was like he was booming them, man. Like that's something we probably don't have to worry about for another 4 years is a place kicker.
Yeah.
I literally think if he puts about another 10 pounds on, like Andy's your starting field goal kicker from day one.
Yeah. No, 100%. I know we kind of rolled out a first team offensive line. Jared Williams wasn't a part of that first team offensive line, but I think this is the base and we're going to grow from it moving forward. And we're going to learn a lot about this offensive line against Alabama. But how do you think they played against, our first team D line?
So I thought the D line actually got upfield pretty quick. I mean, again, it's a spring game. You're not really hitting a quarterback. Believe it or not, if you watch a spring game, Zach McLeod came off the edge a few times and could have lit up the quarterback and obviously pulled back. Harvey, I thought, played really well. Elijah Roberts, actually, I thought played decent as well. But again, it's hard to say exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I thought the O-line looked good. They looked real good. But moving forward, the D-line of Alabama is probably 60% better than the D-line of Miami, if I'm being honest. So, again, you still got, a few months to get the work in, get bigger, get stronger, get a little bit more physical. So, again, we'll see. I mean, if the D-line is going to push up that quick, then I liked what I saw today with the quarterbacks. They got the ball out quick. They hit the hot routes. So, to me, those two young quarterbacks showed me a lot as far as being able to know what to do with the ball.
I'm curious what you're going to say for this question because this is kind of my thoughts on Jake Garcia. Is Jake Garcia the most impressive true freshman you've seen at Miami in the past 20 years or more?
So you're talking 20 years. And again, it's just spring. The way that he did throw the ball kind of high at times today. Again, that could be nerves, could be, his foot mechanics, whatever the case may be. Believe it or not, I would probably agree with you. I thought, like when Kyle Wright came to Miami as Mr. All-American, Mr. Football,
Yeah.
I thought, and Kyle Wright had the goods. He had the arm. He had the mobility. But again, 4 different coordinators in 4 years. I think that kind of plays with your mantra as far as your mental state, right? But from what I've seen as a true freshman, yeah, Jake Garcia looks really good today. He just needs to learn how to get the ball down a little bit. He put Michael Redding in a bad spot, and Michael Redding took a shot in the back.
Keyshawn Washington.
So, but you know what? I'm not opposed to the physicality by Keyshawn Washington as well. A couple times he came up. He put a nice hit on Daslin, and forced a fumble. So, we were talking about this the other night. The physicality, we've been missing that physicality. We talked about it from the linebacker position. Now, again, I'm not opposed to seeing it from a corner, from a safety easier. Avante Williams looked pretty good out there today.
Yes.
Xavier Restrepo literally opened my eyes today. Through reverse slants, that corner route, that fade route in the end zone by TVD, beautiful ball, outside shoulder, no one else is getting it, drug his feet in there. So I did like what I saw. I was kind of impressed today because normally I don't really care about spring. Today I was kind of impressed on what I saw.
I know we try to compare, a lot of people compare Restrepo to Barrios. I think he's much more advanced at this stage of the game so far. as coming in as an underclassman, being more implemented with the playbook. I think Restrepo is going to make a bigger impact to this upcoming season than Barrios did as an underclassman at Miami.
Oh, agree 100%. Again, you're talking about a true sophomore, potentially, depending on what he wants to do from last year, whether or not now it's a redshirt freshman, if he doesn't want to use last year's, season as far as, eligibility. I think he gets a lot of playing time. I think he gets a lot of burn. It's hard to keep him off the field of what I saw today.
No, 100%. That's going to be, basically the wide receiver we utilize in the inside. That's going to be our third guy in the wide receiver rotation, and he's going to be heavily incorporated not only just in our offense, but returning punts as well. I think he's going to be a huge playmaker this upcoming season. And another thing that we got to see live today for the first time, this was the new tenure of Travaris Robinson overseeing our secondary. This is change. This is a new coach supervising the entire secondary. What did you think for the first time seeing our secondary live in action?
I like the man coverage. I like the press coverage.
Yes.
I think the corners and the safeties were flying around a lot more than what they normally would have been doing. There was a couple times. I mean, again, you looked at a couple of picks, that were thrown. It's just good seeing them in the position that they should be in and not out of position. I like Amari Carter when he was playing up in striker. Like we talked the other night, Gil Firestone I thought was phenomenal today. He was all over the place. But I think T-Rob is bringing a different type of mentality and a different type of culture back to the University of Miami, which you shouldn't have to bring that back to Miami. But no disrespect to Coach Banda. But again, he's not a Miami guy, right? And you're bringing that Miami, and I hate to use the word swagger, but you're bringing that Miami swag back to what these kids are used to, right? Whether it's in high school, whether it's a transfer, whatever the case may be. But at least it's nice seeing somebody, and he looked comfortable. T-Rob looked comfortable with the headset on. It looks like maybe he's a DC in the making, so it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. There were some, costly, early penalties, jumping off sides, a couple of pass interference calls, but I wasn't mad at those because at the end of the day, guys are trying to make plays.
I'll say this, man. The cornerback room, depth-wise, I'm not worried for the first time in a while, man. Hey, Isaiah Dunson, he made a huge jump from his first year at Miami to his second year. He blew up, man, physically. He looks outstanding.
You got guys like Brian Balaam, Marcus Clark, guys that aren't even in right now because they're hurt. Corey Couch didn't play today.
Yep.
Again, it should be interesting to see, again, moving forward, come fall, get all these guys healthy, and you're going to need that depth against Alabama, right? Like you're going to need bodies, and it's a good problem to have right now because this is something that we haven't had in a long time. And again, it's going from D-line, as far as tackles, ends, linebackers, corners, and safeties, that we finally are building depth upon depth upon depth, and that's what you need.
100% agree. And speaking of depth, we haven't touched yet on our edge rushers. It's a new group coming in. They're taking over from Roche Phillips. That's a high ceiling, to kind of compare. I hope Miami fans, they can get away from, being spoiled the past couple seasons from seeing great play at the edge rusher position. But what do you think about, DeAndre Johnson, Zach McLeod, your Cam Williams and Jabari Harvey's?
I thought they looked pretty well. Cam Williams was on crutches later on in the afternoon, so I'm not sure.
I didn't see that.
Sideline on crutches. But like I said earlier, I mentioned about Zach McLeod. I thought he rushed coming off the edge.
We might have lost Co.
Right edge. Harvey, and it's going to be hard to keep him off the field because his motor is just nonstop. He looked really, really impressive out there. So again, it's a good problem to have. Jess Simpson, again, you're going to have, the whole off season and the fall to fine tune, to tweak, to continue coaching these guys. If we can get a 60% production of those guys from what we've had the last couple of years, I would be satisfied with that. Again, you don't have the stars like the Phillips, the Roches, and the Rousseaus, so you got to at least be equivalent to maybe your backups, what they were offering. So I think if you get a 6% production from that, I would be happy with that.
100%. No, I wholeheartedly agree. Cole, anything else you want to add from the spring game? Hasn't been touched on yet?
Again, special teams. Obviously, there was no rushing or
Yeah.
anything like that. But man, Lou Henley was booming the ball. Like
Yeah, he was.
Andy Bush, like I said, I already touched on Andy. I think Andy's going to be a stud in the making. I can literally see Andy being another Luke Rosa Award winner. I talked to his brother after the spring game. His brother was really happy with the performance that Andy put in. And again, you're talking about, again, it's his little brother, but he's also his biggest, critique person as well. And what's happening is having Jose, who did what he did, be able to still work with his younger brother, I think is only going to benefit Andy. He says Andy needs to put a little bit more weight on in order to get his legs stronger, things like that. But special teams, I think is going to be solid. Clay James, we talked about this too. Clay James at snapper, Lou Henley holding the field goals, Lou Henley kicking. Special teams is really going to be a game changer for us again this year. I really believe that.
100%. Last question before I let you go, Cole. Seeing this team from the spring game, I know we're missing like over 11 players, a lot of starters, Mallory, Bolden, I mean, Couch, a lot of people are missing. How do you think we look as a team going into the fall season?
Better than we have in probably the last 5 years.
I agree.
I really, they've come together as a team. There's not a lot of individual play out there. There's little things like, there's little things that can get, tweaked. They can fix a little bit here and there. The O-line, like someone just said, the O-line, I think the O-line played really well again today as well. But at the end of the day, it's finally some continuity and the chemistry among the players and holding each other accountable, I think is going to be key moving forward. Obviously, again, you have two young quarterbacks throwing the ball around today. They looked really good. You still have number one that'll be there in the fall. So we'll see, what happens when King gets back, and we'll go from there. But actually, I was really impressed. And again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not a big spring game type of guy,
Right.
but I'm actually kind of impressed today.
Yeah, no, I think there were a lot of big question marks I had going into this spring game, and I left a lot more content. And I think you perfectly said it. This is probably the best spring game I've seen, and that I can remember, honestly, at Miami. And I think we're starting to see a more complete Miami Hurricanes team with better depth than we've seen at a lot of positions. So, hey, Cole, man.
I completely agree. One thing, Paul, I want to give a shout out
Yeah,
to
go
my,
for
to my girl. She's riding my shotgun with me, so she holds it down. So shout out to Maria. So listen, man, I appreciate you having me on, Paul, and we'll talk soon, man.
Absolutely, Cole, man. That's a day one diehard, baby. Gotta love it. Appreciate it, Cole.
All right, big dog.
Peace. That's it. It's never gonna get as real as Cole, man. That's a day one diehard Miami Hurricanes fan. He's gonna keep it real. He bleeds orange and green. You gotta love it, man. So hey, Derek Cole. If you don't see him on ESPN, if you don't see him at the games, man, you're just not looking hard enough, man. I'll be honest. Let me see if I try to get Wholesome on. He's actually headed to a game he has. He's playing in 2 hours. His team he coaches for, so I won't be able to get Wholesome one on. I saw him on the live chat. I greatly appreciate it. And even he stated this is probably the best spring team we have had in years, and I wholeheartedly agree. Just want to thank you to the 194 people on with me right now live. I couldn't have done this channel without you guys. It's been going on for over 2 years, and the channel will get bigger, better, and we're going to continue growing, man. I'm excited for what the future has to hold. If you haven't yet, go on and check out my Bryant McKinney interview on the Believe in the U podcast. In the short clip, he talked about the offensive line at Miami. He did an outstanding job in that interview, kind of just breaking down how he ended up at Miami, talking about the offensive line and the past coach in Butch Berry compared to Garen Justice. There's a lot of good information in that video. But I want to thank everyone, all the 200 people on with me right now for being live, listening to what I have to, just my takes on the spring football game, and the fans as well. A little bit of mixed opinions from everywhere, different perspectives. I want to thank you guys, and always all about the U, baby. Go Canes.